Hi, Peter. Today is our second interview for your adventures with Geeks Go Peaks. And, well, you took a mixed group of geeks and climbers to Mount Kazbek in 2025. And why did you choose Kazbek specifically over after Ararat?
Yes. I heard about Kazbek for a while, which is, I think, an interesting mountain from many aspects. On one extent, it is not a very high a mountain. It is barely over 5,000 meters. But on the other hand, it is much more technical compared to the Ararat, which we did the previous years, and even compared to the high mountains in the area such as Elbrus, right? And also the location of it is different, is interesting, right? It's located on the border between Russia and Georgia. But we took the route from Georgia for obvious reason, and Georgia is a very interesting country with very interesting history, architecture, cuisine, and so on and so forth, right? And I always like to have those trips which can sort of like a mix, right? You have on one extent this adventure, and then on the other hand you also have some history and kind of some unique environment, right? You get to spend time in.
So I've seen it has glaciers also, right? So that makes
Yeah, of course. That is what I mean. It is more technical, right? And yes, it has glacier, and not only glacier per se, but it also has crevasses, right? So that means you walk on a glacier, if there is a chance you fall into the crack, right? So you have to be careful, you have to be roped in, right? And it also has some challenges as a potential rockfall, right, which you need to avoid, right, and some other stuff.
Yeah, and what kind of group, what kind of people did you go with? What type of people?
Well, we got a bunch of folks. I would say some of them are very usual suspects. There's a couple of more people which joined me. I think a lot of people also went with Ararat. Went to Ararat with us the previous year. Right. I think I did advertise to everybody what that is more technical mountain, right? Because Ararat is interesting, right? On one extent, this is very historic and a beautiful mountain. It's also over 5,000 meters, but also that is essentially like a trekking peak. Right, you walk to the top with your poles alone. Right, maybe you need crampons, right, because the very top of that is covered with ice and snow. But otherwise, it's basically walking, right? And Kazbek is something else. So not everybody who wanted to go Ararat, I think what Kazbek is for them.
And for you personally, what was the hardest moment? Well, how did you feel? What was challenging for you there?
Well, for me, you know what I would say. When it looks at their mountains, there are those, let's say, objective difficulties, and there are some subjective things which relates to how you feel, right? And for me, I got some, stomach bug a couple of days before we had to go to the base camp, right? And I did not, I think, recover 100% before pushing for summit. So that was kind of a question for me, like sort of questioning myself to what extent I am, 100% ready to go or not, right? So yeah, I mean, I wasn't 100%, but we still did it very well. The second challenge for us was weather, and that is like I think is another interesting dimension, right? Because when we talk about the mountain and how different mountain is, the always question you have to ask, well, what is the variance? Because a lot can depend on the weather, right? And you can hear some people can say, well, for us, it was, like an easy walk in the park to the summit, and now we can say, oh my gosh, we suffered for hours and hours, and we had to turn back, right, because the weather was completely different, right? And I think this is especially important in Kazbek because of the navigation challenges, right? Because usually, if you are in a fog or the clouds, right? Well, it's kind of the same things, right? Right, in the high mountains, you can use GPS to navigate, right? There, Kazbek is so close to the border with Russia, what the GPS is spoofed out there, right, because of the ongoing war, right? So once you are in a high slope of the Kazbek, there's basically no GPS, right? I was like taking my GPS and it showed me like I walked 700 kilometers, kind of jump into like all around the space, like 100 kilometers here, here and there, right? So that was adding the challenge, right? And then we came to the high camp. We saw the weather was not great, right? And we really had to spend, I think, couple of extra day out there, and we really did a summit push at the last possible day. So this kind of sitting out there and waiting and wondering wherever the weather will cooperate, and you will be able to have a good attempt on summit, or wherever you'll just have to go back because of the bad weather. That's always tough on your nerves.
So you said it is tough on your nerves to wait for the summit. For you personally, how important it is that you summit a peak when you go out for an adventure like this?
Well, look, I think this is a great question, and I think if you're in mountaineering, right, this kind of stuff is saying, hey, this is a mountain I didn't summit, is a very important this kind of time at the kind of growing up, right? Because if you're just like a casual hiker, often you say, well, I wanted to go this route, I did it. It's kind of, maybe you're tired a little more, tired a little bit less, right? But it's not like, oh, well, it wasn't feasible to do it, right? It was not smart to do it, which is a very common thing with mountaineering. And yes, I mean, there have been some, mountains where we had to turn back, and it's okay, right? But I think it's also a question about why. Right, because sometimes you can say, hey, you know what, I don't feel like doing it, right? I'm kind of don't have that in me. That's kind of one thing. But then if you're saying, oh, well, you know what, we were doing well and just have to turn back because of stupid weather, that's kind of unpleasant. Especially because with big mountains, and especially big mountains in the faraway places, right? It takes significant time commitment. You fly there, right? You spend time acclimatization and so on and so forth, and then boom, right? Because of it, just damn stupid weather, you are, not even given a chance.
So, situation with guides. So, how many guides do you normally hire for a trip like this? And what's the skill set?
Yeah. Well, if you look at the guides, usually it is it can be variable, right? I mean, I would say it's kind of often variable, because if you look at those expedition, there are typically going to be multiple stages, right? And the first stage, you often would come to some sort of town, a village, right? And you may have no guide, or you may have some guide which accompanies you. That's more like a kind of like a travel guide. Hey, here is what to see. Here is where to eat, where to stay, and so on and so forth. Right. Then the next type happens is often acclimatization, right? Wherever you are going up before the summit push gradually, right, or you climb in some, smaller peaks before that. Often those are non-technical, and that means, just a couple of groups, a couple of guides for a whole group may be enough. Right now, I usually prefer to have at least two guides, right, which we actually didn't have on a part of Office 3 because you want if you're going in the mountains and somebody is doesn't feel well, right, or maybe have some small problems, right, they twisted their ankle. You want to make sure there is a guide to take care of them and take them back. Right, because if that doesn't happen, then the whole group have to come back, right, because of a one person, and that often can be disappointing, right? Especially if you have such a quite a mixed group. What often happens is people may overestimate their level of fitness, right? And you have somebody who can say, "Oh, I cannot go anymore. I'm kind of too tired. My heart is jumping out of my chest," and you're thinking like, "Oh, and now we have to go back because of you. We told you that is going to be hard. We told you you need to train for that. You did none of it, right?" And you just say, "No, I will just want to try and win it anyway." And now, because of that, the whole group is impacted, right? And often people, they don't tell that, right? They can say, "Yes, we understand. We'll take care of you." But actually, people tend to be disappointed if they couldn't sort of, do it on the peak of their ability. Right, and they're limited by somebody else.
Yeah, but it reminds me of people, of one certain person who overestimated their potential and didn't prepare for certain events. So, so anything like this happened on this trip? Did you have problems? Anyone any issues?
Yeah, so I mean, on this trip, right, we did have some, I would say, the challenge. We had the lead guy. We had Anton. He is a very capable, I would say, like advanced mountaineer. He did a lot of crazy shit in his life, right? He's also like some very advanced outdoor skier, right? And if you are the daredevil, I think he's kind of a perfect guide for you, right?
Yeah,
so
pushing you forward.
No, he doesn't understand what some people may be kind of very far from his ability, right? And he is not a babysitter, right? And in many cases, I think you want like a mix of that skills in one guide, maybe multiple guides, sort of like like a babysitter who can take care of 3 years old and kind of wipe their nose if they have to, share the tie their shoelaces, right, and so on and so forth, right, and somebody who really can get sort of like the most most advanced people and make it fun for them, right? That is kind of a balance, I would say, and it's not easy to get it in the same person, right? And I'm not overestimating that, because if you look at this case, is at the altitude, we all kind of can become stupid, right? And your brain doesn't have oxygen and you're not acclimatized, right? I have seen people like figuring out for half an hour, like, how do you put the harness on yourself, right? And because it needs to be kind of, untwisted, and they just, smart people, but you know what? In the altitude and after working hard for a few hours, it's hard to do, right? And you need a guide who is capable of helping with that, right? Or putting crampon and so on and so forth. But anyway, back to this situation, right? One of the days we had to go to some acclimatization peak, right? And that peak, it didn't have really the trail. You just have to sort of like scramble through the loose rock, right? and that was not comfortable for one of the members, right? And the guy just said, "Okay, that's cool. I will kind of take over with people who can go fast, right, and then wait on the top, right?" Which really kind of got that member of a team very discouraged, kind of feeling, abandoned. There, she would expected some more support, right? And frankly, in some other cases, right, I've seen, hey, if somebody is struggling, you have two guides, and there is one guide would go with that member, offering them kind of additional support they may need, right, or even kind of taking them down if they cannot continue, right? So I know that was very disappointing experience for that for that member in particular, right? And I think she did invent very well. She avoided kind of a twisting ankle, right, or breaking leg or something, right? And we had some of other group members help you to go back, right, to descend, because that is kind of typically the challenge, right? I mean, if you are going going down on a technical trail is often much more dangerous than going up, right? Because you can sort of accidentally start running, right, or something, and then kind of wipe out or move fast and kind of twist your ankle, right, compared to moving up, right, when you are usually looking a lot slower. Anyway, that in the end we avoided any kind of injuries, right? But I don't think that was handled like very professionally, right? And for me, that also kind of gets more items added to my already long checklist of questions I should ask, ask the guides, right, about their, expectations we have compared to what they usually do.
So acclimatization, how easy was it at that height?
Well, I think for me, I was already kind of getting my kind of stomach bug, if you will. So I moved with a group, but I was looking at my heart rate and saying, "Oh, you know what? That is harder. That is higher than I would expect, right?" Because I mean, I know my fitness level compared to some other folks in in the space, right, where we are doing that. But in general, that was not something uh, yeah, something very hard for me.
Hmm. If someone from your tech open source world joins a trip like this, what should they expect in terms of comfort versus discomfort?
Oh, there is the comfort. Well, I would say if you are looking for comfort, that is really not the place for you to go, right? Like, hey, you know what? I'm somebody who wants mojitos and 5-star hotels. But at the same time, we usually try to find the best comfort which is possible in that kind of expedition, right? So if you think about this particular example, we would, stay in some sort of where I would say, typical uh, Georgian hotel, right, in Tbilisi. Then we stay in a guest house, right, in that we, have accommodation, 2-3 people in room, right, and then there's a shower and a toilet in each of the rooms, which is awesome, right. Then we would go up, right, and in our case we um, went in Kazbek specifically. There is this um, building which is called like a meteo station, right? I think that had some sort of like I think military significance in the Soviet times, right? And then it kind of became abandoned, and now it's kind of like a semi-operational as more of a climbers dormitory. right? But in that case, you have really the rooms are filled with with shelves, right? And it kind of many people, maybe like 10 sleeping in the same room, and it's kind of dirty, smelly, and so on and so forth, right? So what we did is we stayed in a tent nearby, and also additionally we had some little campus slash kitchen which was almost private for us, where we had like a table, we eat, we play, we can communicate, right? It's kind of warm, which was quite nice, right? Because I would think if you especially have a bad weather, to stay in that tent all the time, yeah, it's kind of not fun.
I can imagine. So the extra time that you spent there, at least, well, wasn't as well. It was better than it could have been. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's good, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that worked out, uh, pretty fine. But I think this is kind of a trip where you need to be comfortable sleeping in the tent, right? And probably not having a shower for a few days, and using kind of their pretty basic toilet facilities.
Anything for you to add?
Yeah, so I think what you didn't ask a lot, right? And I think it is always interesting about the summit day itself, right? Because I think if you have any of those adventures, right? Like when you go like, hey, summit in the mountain, right? It's always comes to, hey, this kind of like a preparation, and then today is the day. Today is we're going to, attempt a summit push, right? And you really prepare for that, physically, mentally. You want to make sure you get enough rest, you are acclimatized, weather cooperates, and so on and so forth, right? And in our case, right? So if you think about this, the Mount Kazbek, one of the difference compared to Iowa, to let's say Ararat, is also the longer distance and longer elevation again to the summit, right? So we're staying about 3,600 meters, and we go to 5,000 something meters, right? So that's about 1,400, 1,500 meters elevation gain, which is more significant, right? And this may not sound a lot, but I think it's kind of more significant with elevation gain, right? And then there is the question: how do you go in summit, right? And on one extent, if you go too fast, then that is you're just not going to make it. You'll get like exhausted and have to turn back. That is not good, right? But then also for faster climbers, it's often is kind of not comfortable. You're kind of wasting too much energy actually moving too slow. But what is also worse is you can basically get cold, right? Like because you start in the middle of the night. If you move too slow, right, then you get cold, right? So in our case, we sort of like split in their two groups. There was sort of this faster group, and there was their slower group, right? So I think we had the faster there. I think like our slower group, they left maybe about 1 a.m., right? Sort of like a shortly after midnight, kind of getting this kind of 2-hour gain ahead of us. And we left, we wake up at 2 a.m. and left at 3 a.m., right? And this probably also like some surprises. Some people, like a lot of mountain climbs, they tend to start in the middle of in the middle of the night because one, you want the snow to be kind of harder, right? So that means less probability of avalanches, of stone falls and everything, right? And maybe you also want to have more of a daylight ahead of you, right? So if something goes wrong, you're tired, or rescue is needed, you are not stuck in the mountains overnight because that can be very dangerous, right? So we have those, two groups, and our group was led by the guy called Gleb, and he is sort of like a accomplished trail runner. I think he is somebody who has the, like a fastest known time to Mount Kazbek, right, and so on and so forth. So was pretty, pretty cool guy. So anyway, as I say, I was not feeling kind of too good in this case, but we still thought that will work it, right? So we started later, and that was actually a very good timing because we caught up with our group like a very, very, very close to summit, and that allowed us to spend some time on the summit together, right? Because that is not a consideration, right? If you have two groups which start at the same time, and one of them is much, much faster than another, it gets to summit, and then you know what? Especially if there is a wind out there, you're not going to just sit for 2 hours waiting for other people to to get by, right? And with us, we kind of moved with a reasonable speed, right? We overtook a lot of groups doing that. And then what was an interesting thing, kind of showing the Gleb's competitive nature. I think it was last push, maybe kind of it was another like in 100 meters left or 200 meters. He was like looking at the watch and saying, "Oh, guys, you are probably the fastest group ever when I did this with customers." So if maybe we just should, go and make it for a record, run for summit. Okay, let's go, right? And he says, okay, screw your crampon, no, not crampon, screw your eye socks. You can just put it aside. The ice poles are fine, and then everybody goes kind of like a zigzagging through a mountain, right? He takes us kind of like a straight up, and we are like move there to the very top of the mountain, very crazy. And he said, "Oh, cool! Now we got that in 5 hours, 34 minutes from a camp, right? Which is kind of awesome time." Which was like some, I think some really, really special, right? And that probably was the hardest point, hardest part of the trip for me.
Not even the bug. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was getting better at that time, right? I don't want to, to pretend like, oh my gosh, I was kind of vomiting overnight, and then I wake up and then I did it. But I felt did it in like a super fast anyway. But I felt like, well, you know what? That's good. You've been training, doing that like a trail runs, some other exercises, right? And that's really means that even if you are not 100%, you can still, perform.
No.
Perform pretty well. But I would say, like as we say often, what ascent is only half of a problem, right, and less than half of a problem, right? Because a lot of accidents, if it happen, they often happen way back when people are just saying, "Oh, I given all my stuff for summit, and then now I'm trying to get down. I'm exhausted." Right, and going down was kind of like a slightly, tough because, well, going down is tough, and there's like near the summit there's like a significant incline. It was sort of pretty icy, so we really had to be quite quite careful.
Yeah, it's a long way down.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that is also, if in this case, which is if you start falling, the incline is so long, right? You may not be able to stop, right? Of course, you are given your eyesight and you practice how to stop yourself, but it's still, you still need to be able to do that, and sort of like the more speed you gain, the harder it is actually for you to do. Summit was awesome, right? And I would say you would see some pictures we shared with people, like trying to summit it even in a bad weather visions. Hey, here we are on a summit, and you are in the clouds. You cannot see anything, right? You can say, "Oh, that's good," right? You can check it in your journals what you submitted Mount Kazbek, but you don't really get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And in our case, that was, I think, like the only day in like just like a maybe 10-day period, right, or something, where we come to the top, and this is absolutely clear, so you can see all that kind of range of a Caucasus Mountain. You can say, oh, here is like the Elbrus out there. Here is like some other mountains. So I think that was absolutely absolutely awesome on that point. I mean, the only thing I regret, right, because we got this GPS being spoofed, that means no drone. Otherwise, I think there will be such an awesome, drone shots with, us on the top of Kazbek, right? Again, sunny, almost no wind, gorgeous weather, which allows us kind of to spend like probably like an hour on the top, right? And that makes a lot of difference, right? I would compare that actually to last year. There we did Ararat, and it was sunny, but it was windy. Like it was so windy you couldn't actually even put a backpack down; it would just fly away, right? Unless you try to get it somewhere, right? And in that condition, well, we just saying, okay, we got here, let us take the pictures, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you go down, because that's so unpleasant. So we got back to this camp, right, about what is it? About another 1.5 kilometers, right, to our camp, and then you have a choice. Okay, do you want to stay here, or do you want to go down, right? And you can say, okay, you know what? Let's just pack and go further down to a village, right? Because that's where you have shower. That's where you can have the any food you like, right, and so on and so forth. And then we kind of got together, and I think it was another 1,600 meters descent, right, to get to that Stepan Smira. So yeah.
From what I understand, there is a book in the works to commemorate this trip, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that's like a big book, but what you like to do from the trips is to really get additional memories, right? And we found what's in our kind of like a so much digital era, also giving people some paper book, right? They can browse it and kind of maybe show their friends, the team who was maybe some significant milestones in that asset. That can be that's kind of pretty cool, right? Some people also had like some Ask books maybe to give to their parents or grandparents, right? Which they can say, oh, that is kind of so cool, right? To see what actually you guys have done.
Yeah, especially grandparents, not so much into digital stuff.
That's right. Yes, that can be an extra value, right?
Do you have anything else in works? Do you have a target set for the next one to conquer? for the next
Well,
year?
I mean, we are still working on our plans for next year. Right, I think there are some ideas in works. Right, I know a number of people, for example, ask about the Kilimanjaro, right, which is sort of I would say relatively easy and non-technical, but also very well-known mountain, kind of top of Africa, and it's also like such a gorgeous volcano rising in the middle of a desert, right? So I want to do that sometime. We also are looking potentially doing some trekking in Nepal, which is kind of like a different kind of animal compared to climbing the standalone volcano, but that's also an idea we have sort of in works.
Yeah, that sounds great. This is all gonna be within the scope of Geeks Go Peaks, right?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I personally probably also look some additional additional mountains, kind of on my own. Yeah, but that's a different story.
Thank you very much, Peter.